Kano Attorney General denies banishing deposed Emir as Sanusi's legal team threatens legal action. Lagos State government alerts residents on predicted 240 days rainfall. In international news, coronavirus everywhere, rapid spread in Europe and the US. And later, sports. NFF orders immediate suspension of all league matches.
This is ANN News.
General Ibrahim Mokhtar insists Emir Sanusi was not banished but deposed from the state. Mokhtar says Sanusi was accompanied out of the state as a result of some intelligence reports. The Attorney General says it was normal practice for deposed emirs to be moved away to maintain peace in the state. The AG further stated that Sanusi was not removed because of the corruption probe, but strictly because of insubordination. Meanwhile, Sanusi's legal team has threatened to take some legal action if the former emir is not released. The lawyers say they will challenge his alleged banishment and detention by Kano State government. This move was reviewed at a press conference in Kano by Sanusi's legal team, led by a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Abubakar Balarabe Mahmood. Mahmoud says Sanusi's safety and security are in jeopardy because no one has been able to speak to the former emir since Monday, as he has been kept in isolation. The lawyers say, quote, the archaic practice of banishment of deposed emirs, a colonial practice, is unconstitutional and illegal. While this is still being debated, Kaduna State government has offered the deposed emir a leadership role on the board of Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, Kadipa, the state's investment arm, and as a chancellor of the Kaduna State University. Kadipa has anchored the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business Charter that has earned Kaduna State World Bank recognition as the easiest place to do business in Nigeria. Also, the dethroned emir succeeded the pioneer chancellor of Kasu, His Highness Malam Tagwa Sambo, the chief of Morua in southern Kaduna. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has predicted rain would fall in Lagos this year for 9 months, starting next Thursday. Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tunji Bello announced this at a news conference on the 2020 seasonal rainfall predictions and prevention of flooding in Lagos. Bello told journalists the rainfall prediction for Lagos this year was a near normal one, adding that Ikeja was expected to have about 1,500 millimeters of rainfall, with Badagry experiencing 1,700 millimeters. The Athletics Integrity Unit has included Nigeria and Morocco among countries at the highest doping risk fewer than 5 months from the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The ARU is the independent anti-doping watchdog for track and field. It has classified countries worldwide in 3 categories. And reporter Kelechi Emekalam explains all this.
Countries like Bahrain, Belarus, Ethiopia, Kenya and Ukraine have featured in Category A since 2019. Nigeria and Morocco have just been added to the list. They were included having failed to comply with some of the rules under the Athletics Integrity Unit. This new ranking now brings Nigerian athletes under intense scrutiny.
Well, it simply means that Nigerian athletes will be a focus in major international meets. They will be looking out for Nigerian athletes. They will be looking at performances of Nigerian athletes with a measure of suspicion.
It's going to affect me because it's giving Nigeria a bad record globally. And most times as an athlete, whenever I go to seek for visa, maybe in whichever country I want to go to, most times once you say yes, you're from Nigeria, they look at you like maybe someone who is coming to do some doping in their country. So it's really affecting me as a cyclist.
Now the Athletic Federation of Nigeria is strengthening its framework and closely monitoring athletes to get the nation off the watch list.
We must accept the fact that we're falling short of such rule, but nevertheless, The federation is working and have already put in place a committee under doping, medical anti-doping, by renowned Nigerians who have done so well. And we believe Nigeria will step up, and we're also taking some proactive steps in and out of competition to test our athletes in line with the best practice.
The Federation says it's paying close attention to the list of drugs not tolerated by the international body. Any athlete found guilty of doping would be penalized. No less than 15 athletes have tested positive to doping in Nigeria. At various levels, they risk sanctions as severe as a total ban from competing in any competition.
Coming up, African stories. Morocco records first coronavirus death as confirmed cases spike in South Africa. And later, international news. Coronavirus decimates Italy, spreads rapidly in the US.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Morocco's health ministry has announced the country's first coronavirus death. The ministry said in a press release the deceased was an 89-year-old woman who had arrived in Morocco last month from Italy. Morocco has 3 confirmed cases of coronavirus, including the woman that died. Meanwhile, South Africa says it has 6 new confirmed cases of coronavirus in the country. This increases to 13 the number of those who have tested positive for the virus. And the country has sent its military aircraft to bring its citizens home from Wuhan, the coronavirus epicenter. And the virus has spread to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the government has confirmed its first case. Authorities say a Congolese national who had returned to Kinshasa from France tested positive for the virus. The novel coronavirus has touched every continent and is also beginning to drag down economies and infrastructure projects. Such is its effect on the ongoing construction of Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam. Equipment and material supplies from China have temporarily ceased because of the disease. Reporter Gurum Chala has the rest of the story.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is now 71% complete and counting. Work is being done 24/7 with no interruptions. Several global construction firms, including those from China, are working on the project.
We have increased contractors who are working on the dam's turbine and metal works from 1 to 4. 2 of them are engaged in playing the turbines and the other 2 are assigned on the metal part of the work. This is done to double the speed of the work on site. These contractors have worldwide operation experience of building mega dams like that of ours. All technical adjustments are done to expedite the process of work to finish the GERD as soon as possible.
But the global coronavirus outbreak is affecting the construction of what will be Africa's #1, world's 10th largest hydropower generating dam. The Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy says there have been delays in shipment of equipment ordered from China.
Due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, some equipment ordered from China has been delayed. Some are taking weeks and others are taking months for delivery. But we take this as pressure not only on us, but for the entire global economy. And though there are effects, I can say so far there's no significant pressure on the dam due to this.
Egypt has taken issue with Ethiopia's construction of the mega dam. Cairo wants Ethiopia to sign a deal proposed by the United States. It has in the past warned it will use any means necessary to stop Ethiopia from filling its reservoir if the flow downstream is adversely affected. Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister sees matters differently.
This generation of Ethiopia has begun this precious and common project with courage. We have walked the truth and now we are here. We would like to tell anyone at this moment that no one will stand on the way of us utilizing our natural resources. We shall preserve to sustain our rights till the end. We shall never ask anyone's permission for this to happen. On the tripartite relationship, however, we will always consider mutual benefits, and listening to one another will be given high value at all times.
China is Africa's biggest partner in infrastructure development. The progress of many projects in the continent will depend on how quickly China's economic hubs recover from the effects of the outbreak. It is clear that for Ethiopia's $4.8 billion dam to be completed, China's full return to production will play a key role.
In other stories around the continent, the Tunisian parliament has rejected the basic bill on the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area. The text failed to obtain the required number of votes, and Connect International, a non-governmental organization, says the rejection penalizes Tunisian companies. Hadlin Chawochi reports.
The African Free Trade Area AfCFTA has been operational since May 2019. The Tunisian government signed the agreement on March 21, 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda. The parliament was expected to adopt this agreement in order to complete the accession procedures. However, the opposition rejected the bill.
Voting in favor of the bill is the responsibility of the ruling party and not the opposition. The MPs who back the government were absent from the plenary, so they are responsible for the rejection of the AfCFTA project.
The ruling blocs at Parliament say the objectives of the agreement include strengthening the competitiveness of enterprises, reducing export linkages of major commodities, and consolidating economic and social transition.
Africa is the favorite destination of the world in terms of investment and trade. This rejection is a crime committed against the Tunisian people, Tunisian exporters, and companies, as well as against all those who worked for the implementation of this convention.
Tunisian professionals say the African Free Trade Area is the largest in the world, representing 1.2 billion people and trading more than $300 billion. It will help boost trade between African countries from 16 to 33%.
We've worked hard with many partners to present the bill and increase Tunisia's presence in Africa. This convention will facilitate the access of our companies to African markets. It seeks to establish an integral framework allowing a fruitful trade relations between the African Union member states.
The Tunisia-Africa Business Council urged MPs to find a legal solution so as to resubmit the bill related to the founding convention of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Economists say the objective of the AfCFTA is to increase the competitiveness of Tunisian products on African markets. It also stipulates the dismantling of non-customs barriers. The agreement will have a positive impact on the export of Tunisian services.
When we return, international news. Coronavirus decimates Italy, spreads rapidly in the US. And later, sport. NFF orders immediate suspension of all league matches.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to international stories. Coronavirus is today the focus of all discussions around the world, and attention centers on Italy and the United States, where the rate of infections has been quite high. More than 10,000 persons have tested positive in Italy, where the Prime Minister has kept the entire country of more than 60 million on lockdown. As Italians struggle to adapt, commercial activities and public transportation in the country's north are being threatened of a shutdown by officials. Meanwhile, the number of infections in the United States has climbed beyond 1,000. Authorities have set up a containment zone in a New York City suburb where the outbreak is large. It is very likely Democratic lawmakers in Washington could move very quickly today to introduce an economic rescue package for the coronavirus crisis. And British Health Minister Nadine Dorries has contracted the coronavirus. Health officials are working feverishly to trace her contact. As a result of her infection, lawmakers are pondering whether to suspend parliament. Europe's major case and epicenter of the disease on the continent is Italy. Now the whole country is on lockdown, an extreme step to aggressively deal with this deadly COVID-19. How is that working out? Ross Cullen takes us through.
Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte making an emergency statement on Monday evening, saying now that the lockdown measures that previously only applied to certain sections of the northern parts of Italy will now apply to the whole country. We're going to see here in Rome the measures that they were subject to in places like Milan and Venice. Bars and restaurants are going to be only open until 6 p.m. and they'll only be allowed to open provided that they can assure that customers will be at least 3 feet from each other. All schools are already closed, subject to that national shutdown of all educational institutions, including universities as well. Cinemas closed, theatres, leisure centres, of course tourist destinations as well. They're closed. They're trying to keep the public away from crowded areas. All sports matches now set to take place behind closed doors if they're allowed to go ahead. But we're seeing now all domestic sport generally set to be suspended at least until April the 3rd. So these are now major measures brought in by the Italian authorities. They want to be proactive. They don't want to react anymore. They want to try to get ahead of this. The government admits the economy will be impacted by the measures, with a downturn in activity hurting businesses. This is one of Rome's most famous Chinese restaurants, but the owner is having to shut her doors as her staff stay away.
We cannot work without the kitchen staff. I have had to close my restaurants because of this. It is a big problem, and the shop next door told me that in 3 days they hadn't had a single customer. How do you keep going? How do you recover?
Other European countries are affected too, but there is little precedent for such a scenario, and Italy is having to chart its own path.
China, where this deadly cycle of infections began, is declaring it has the COVID-19 under control. President Xi Jinping visited the epicenter of the virus, the city of Wuhan, on Tuesday, on his first trip to the city since the beginning of the outbreak. His trip to Wuhan was to inspect epidemic prevention and control work in the province.
The commander-in-chief of China's battle visits the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak. Upon his arrival, President Xi Jinping headed straight to Huoxingshan Hospital, Wuhan's first purpose-built hospital with 1,000 beds built from scratch in just 10 days. He met with medical workers who were among the tens of thousands who came to join the front lines in Wuhan.
You're all in protective gear, in masks. I can't see your faces, but all of you are dear to my heart. So I'm here on behalf of the CPC Central Committee, expressing my sincerest and highest respect to each and every one of you.
He also learned about the treatment procedures for COVID-19 patients.
All you need to do is to be confident. We need to strengthen our confidence. We will win this war against the epidemic. Wuhan will win, Hubei will win, China will win as well.
Xi rallied residents in the Wuhan community to believe that they can defeat the epidemic.
The community has made great contributions to the fight against the COVID-19. On behalf of the CPC Central Committee, we would like to express our sincerest and most heartfelt gratitude to all community workers in the country and community workers battling against the coronavirus on the front line.
Wuhan is the key city that was hardest hit by the outbreak, but the number of new cases have been falling, reaching a record low on Monday of just 19 new daily cases nationwide. When the epidemic was declared on January the 20th, the president chaired meetings on epidemic control, scientific research, and measures to jumpstart the country's economy. Through more than 7 weeks of travel restrictions, an extensive lockdown, and hardship, China is seeing progress. Efforts are paying off, businesses are restoring operations, and life is gradually getting back to normal in cities across China.
Up next, sports. NFF orders immediate suspension of all league matches. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sports. The Nigeria Football Federation has ordered an immediate suspension of all league games across the country. The Federation says this is to avert a reoccurrence of Sunday's incident, which was the unfortunate death of Nasarawa United player Chineme Martins. All match commissioners and the host FA have also been instructed to inspect all health facilities at match venues before giving the go-ahead for any match to be played. Manchester City's Premier League match with Arsenal on Wednesday has been postponed as a precautionary measure, and several Gunners players are in self-isolation after Olympiacos owner Evangelos Marikanis tested positive for coronavirus on Tuesday. Arsenal say Marinakis met a number of their players when the Gunners hosted the Greek side in a Europa League match 2 weeks ago. The Premier League says it has no plans to postpone any other matches and all necessary measures are being taken. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.